They say motherhood is a journey, but let's be honest, sometimes it feels more like a roller coaster with no seatbelt. I bet you're like me, wondering why babies, or teens in my case, don't come with instruction manuals. Welcome to This Incredible Mom Life, the podcast that celebrates the beautiful chaos, quiet wins, messy moments, and everyday miracles of being a mom. I'm your host, Dummy, wellness coach, mom of 3 boys, and a passionate believer that you don't have to live at the mercy of PMS, burnout, or exhaustion. Join me every week as we hear the craziest and most unbelievable mom stories. I'll be sharing the huge accomplishments and triumphs of both our moms and their kids. We'll giggle, cheer on the kids, and discuss obstacles and lessons learned along the way. If you are struggling to be the best mom you can be, how open-minded are you to booking a free call with me? You don't have to live at the mercy of your cycle, and you definitely don't have to do it alone. Give yourself permission to let me be part of your support system. I believe that you weren't meant to just survive motherhood. You were meant to thrive in it. It's another day for This Incredible Mom Life. Let's meet today's supermom. Maria Santee is a PA, a functional fertility practitioner, and founder of Vital Fertility, where she helps women uncover what's truly blocking conception, especially in cases of unexplained infertility and secondary infertility. She specializes in advanced lab interpretation, hormone and metabolic optimization, and nervous system informed fertility care. Through her proprietary framework, The Biological Advantage, Maria teaches women how to turn their biology into a strategic asset instead of guessing or being told everything looks normal. She believes fertility is not random, it's responsive, and sees it as a 6th vital sign reflecting the overall state of a woman's health, whether or not she's actively trying to conceive. Thank you, Maria, for taking time out of your day to be here with me.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to share with your audience today.
Yeah, and having gone through infertility treatments myself, this information is very dear to my heart. But before we talk about that, share with us who you are a mom to.
I'm a mom to 2 girls that I had through IVF, Liliana, who's 8 now, and Savannah, who's 5. Yeah, I love being their mom. It is definitely the hardest job I've ever had, is being their mom.
Yes. I always say that when I was a stay-at-home mom, that was harder than any PA job I've ever held. So
Mhm.
definitely a challenge. Mine are older and it's gotten easier, but it hasn't. Like they're different challenges now. So
Yeah, that's what everyone says, that it doesn't get easier, it just gets different, right?
it just gets different. Yeah. So share a story with us.
Sure. And I think most people can relate to this story if you've had a toddler in your life. One that really stands out is um, when I think Liliana must have been like 3.5 and Savannah was barely 1. There was a point where they were both crying. Savannah was crying because her sock was the wrong sock or it felt wrong. And Liliana was crying because the sandwiches that I had just made her weren't like in squares, they were in triangles or something. I can't really remember the details. I just remember that I was so overwhelmed and sitting there in the kitchen thinking, I can't believe I run a clinical practice. I interpret crazy labs. I'm on the go 12 hours and I'm being defeated by toast geometry right now. It
Yes.
was just one of those moments where everything just felt really loud and overstimulating. And I just felt like melting and screaming at the same time.
Yeah. And just
So
when you get used to cutting their sandwiches into whatever squares or whatever, then they're like, no, now I want triangles.
exactly. Yeah, that feeling of overwhelm was something that I think that's been the biggest gift and the hardest thing as a mom that you learn to regulate, right? Because it's about nervous system regulation every day, even this morning before we were leaving to go to school. And they're always a powerful reminder how our biology is always going to win, right? So when we're dysregulated, they get dysregulated. So that is something that I work towards on the daily to really just regulate that nervous system and so that we can respond not about the triangle or the square toast, but really about a need that's not being met for them, right?
Yeah. I always say that the happy mom has the happy kids.
Right. And the stressed out, cranky, irritable mom has the stressed out, cranky, irritable kid. So it all
Yeah.
comes full
They
circle.
they pick up on that all the time.
Oh,
They
yeah.
whether we realize that we're stressed or cranky, they pick up on that.
Yeah. Even, I mean, you can try to hide it. Like I used to, put on this facade, everything's normal, everything's good. But inside I was like dying.
Yeah.
um,
So I think at the end of that crazy story, I think the message there is that becoming a mom, just like becoming an entrepreneur, is a journey where you become a better person, and regulating the nervous system is part of it. So that we could raise children that are not reactive, right? That they're responsive and not reactive.
that's our goal. Yep. um, awesome. I love that. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Maria. I live in Santa Cruz, California, and I am a functional practitioner. So I did family practice for 10 years, and then COVID hit, and I had my youngest 6 weeks after the lockdown. I'd always been interested in integrative medicine. I'd worked with integrative doctors before. So it wasn't something that was unusual for me. And I just said it was just the right timing for me to dive into functional medicine. So I started getting certified in functional medicine. I got certified in functional fertility, in BHRT, and really looking at how I can help women, because I couldn't believe, being a practitioner, how much I knew and how lost I felt when I was struggling through my fertility issues. And if I was struggling, I knew there'd be a lot more women kind of in the, in the thick of it, not really understanding and kind of just trying all different things and not knowing what to do that would be the best for them.
Yep. And in my experience, when I had my infertility, I was getting worked up and this and that, everyone was like, your blood work is normal. Your ultrasounds are normal. Like, you're fine. Everything is fine. And I didn't know at that time, when I was trying to conceive, that I was not fine and there were things I could do about it. Um, but that's what you're going to talk about today. So tell us, there's a lot of people struggling to have kids right now in this day and age. And why is that? What's going on?
Yeah, I think of fertility as like an iceberg, right? So at the tip, we always think that it's age or hormones, but if we really dive deep below the water, we can see that the iceberg is really deep and then really wide. So there's a lot of things that affect fertility. Things like blood sugar regulation, thyroid dysfunction, nutrient deficiencies, chronic inflammation, gut health, stress, nervous system, environmental toxins, and then your mitochondrial resilience, as well as oxidative stress. And then, of course, genetics, right? So there's just so many factors, and those are just a few that can affect fertility, because this is just one person I'm talking about. There's also the sperm, right? 50% of infertility can be coming from the sperm. And a lot of times males aren't even checked 2 to 3 years into fertility care. And sometimes it's about optimizing both, and it's not just one or the other, right? It's such a it takes two to tango when it comes to fertility. So it is very
Yes.
important to check the male aspect as well as the female aspect of their wellness and their health and their biomarkers.
Yep. And I had all of the issues that you mentioned. I had the blood sugar issues, gut issues, environmental issues that I wasn't even aware of, stress, lack of sleep. All of these things were playing a role. And I wish I had known all of this stuff earlier. Uh, but that's the story these days. A lot of people have that issue. Um, so what tips do you have for a couple who's trying to get pregnant and they're just not having success?
Yeah, there's a lot that someone can do. I'll talk a little bit about secondary infertility, because if there's a mom listening to this podcast, she's
That was
probably
my
already a
next
mom,
question. So go for it.
because those tips can kind of help for both, right? So for secondary infertility, right, it's not, we don't really talk about it. It's not something that's really mentioned. And I think part of it is that there's a little bit of guilt around it. Some moms might feel like, oh, I've already been able to conceive, like I should be able to conceive, or why can't my body do this again? And it can be kind of painful, when you're going through that. About 11 to 14% of couples in the United States struggle with secondary infertility. That's about 3 million couples. But biologically speaking, a lot shifts after your first pregnancy or second pregnancy. Every time you become pregnant, nutrient stores become depleted, thyroid function can go a little haywire, stress levels definitely increase. We know that sleep decreases and inflammation can rise. And so if these things aren't addressed, trying for a baby the second time around can be a lot harder, or third time around. ACOG does recommend that people wait 18 to 24 months before conceiving again. And that wait period is to let the body to kind of rebuild the stores that have been depleted, especially if someone's breastfed. So there's a lot that happens that shift, once you become pregnant and have the baby and then breastfeed. And it really depends on how long you breastfeed for. But minimum, I tell people to wait at least 6 months. But the recommendation is to wait even longer than that. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It makes sense though, right?
It totally makes sense. So I breastfed all of my kids for 1 year. But my kids are like 2 years apart. So when they turned one, or like a little bit, more than one, we got pregnant again. And yeah, I was not taking care of myself. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And the funny part is, so we had, one with IVF, one was a frozen embryo, and I had my 2 kids. I thought I was good. Everything was fine. I never took birth control because I was on such high doses of fertility medications to get pregnant that I was like, I don't need to go on birth control. What is that? And the stress of having kids was gone, and I got pregnant naturally with my third. And it was just like, surprise.
Yeah.
So I do tell him that we had like a buy 2 get 1 free kind of a deal here.
Yeah. What a little miracle. I love that.
Yeah. So let's dive more into the issues, the infertility issues, both primary and secondary, and what are some of the things that moms can do?
Yeah. So that's kind of my role, right? I help women understand why the body really isn't conceiving. And the way that I help is I run advanced blood serum markers to start off with. And what does that mean? And you kind of touched on that. You got told that everything looked normal, right? But what I'm looking for are patterns of imbalance, right? With things like insulin and glucose, not just a hemoglobin A1C. When I run a thyroid panel, it's a full thyroid panel, not a TSH, because we can get so much information from all the other markers. I run inflammation markers, iron status. That's a biggie that no one really addresses. Your iron stores get depleted with pregnancy and breastfeeding. And if you don't have enough iron, implantation is not going to work. And if you've got gut issues, then your iron stores are going to be low. So it's almost like a double whammy there with your iron. Like it really opens the door to dive in to help the person understand what's going on with their biology there. Vitamin D and egg quality markers. Those are the other 2 that are really important for me to examine and to kind of really establish those patterns of imbalance so that we can get the roadmap compiled for the couple.
Nice. And then you said the male workup is separate, right? So they get their own, I know they have analysis and they do blood work and things also. So nice. Okay. So what are some of the ways that women can boost their fertility?
Yeah. So some of the ways are almost so simple that they're hard, right? So the number one thing that is really hard, I think, for all of us is sleep. Sleep. And it's not even so much the amount of hours. We know that it's, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours is ideal, but it's really about when you go to sleep. So it's not so much the quality, it's more the quality versus the quantity. So if you go to bed at 12 versus 9:30, even though you're getting the 8 to 10 hours, it makes a huge difference in your hormone production. So I always encourage people, even more so in the winter than in the summer, to go to sleep as early as seems impossible, like 9, 9:30, 10. And it's easier and better for your biology for you to wake up early, like wake up 4:35 versus go to bed at 12 and then wake up at like 7 or 8. And so sleep is paramount and foundational for that. And that's something that's free. And it's just a matter about being disciplined. And I mean, I struggle with this on a daily, but I notice a huge shift when I go to bed at 10:30 versus 11:30, 12 o'clock. So number one, sleep. Hydration, that's another one that is key. And you think, oh, okay, drink water. Why do I need to stay hydrated? Well, your nutrients are in your blood, right? And your nutrients can't get to where they need to go unless you're hydrated. So make sure that hydration is on board, right? So these are like simple, free things that women can do to make sure that you are boosting your fertility as much as possible. The other one that's also free that doesn't get talked about enough is sunlight, right? So, and this has a lot to do with cortisol, so the circadian rhythm, right? So, this is something I go through with every fertility couple that I take. You know, I tell people when I run the Dutch test, which is a functional hormone test, I can see what's happening with cortisol levels. I get cortisol salivary points, and I can see if they're flatlined, if they're, I say out of whack when the cortisol should be up or down. And this happens a lot because of just the day and age that we live, right? We are, we have electricity, so it's daylight even at night. And so what happens is that cortisol and melatonin live on this little seesaw, right? So cortisol is on one end and melatonin's on the other end. And so when your cortisol's up, your melatonin's going to be low. And that's kind of how we function during the day. We need cortisol. Cortisol is not a bad thing. It's a great stress response. And that's how we are alive. Without cortisol, we pretty much die. So we need the cortisol. But what should biologically happen at night is that the cortisol should go down and your melatonin should go up. But because of the way that we live our lives with blue light and screens and TV and 24-hour kind of days, then our melatonin never really goes up and our cortisol stays elevated. So one of the free things that you can do, or two free things that you can do to really help your cortisol levels against, nervous system regulation as well as biological hormone production, is work on that. And the way that you work on it is shutting off your screens 2 hours before bed. So if you go to bed at 9:30, that's right around sunset, like 6:30, 7 o'clock, screens should be off. And then the other thing is waking up and going outside in the morning. First light, sunrise, sunset. So the different colors that we see with the sunrise and those beautiful oranges and pinks with the sunset, those are literal keys to our brain signals to start hormone production, right? Without that, our body knows that it needs to start doing something, but we're not optimizing the hormone production. So going outside and letting the sunrise hit our retina so that it can then talk to the brain, and then we can start producing our vitamin D and all the hormones, the estrogen and all the things, is super important and very free and easy to do as well. So these are a couple of things that people can just kind of do without having to, it's more of a habit and routine change versus having to purchase anything, you know what I mean? And being dedicated to it and understanding that behind these little changes and routines is a huge subtle impact, because all these subtle impacts make for a bigger impact with fertility.
Yep, definitely. So we got sleep, hydration, and get your sunlight. And I talk about all the things you just said. So yes, it's solid information, right? It's not like woo woo. So I just thought of a question. So when I was trying to conceive, and I know we were taught this in PA school, is you wait 1 year, right, of trying to conceive before you start doing anything. So what are your thoughts on that?
In what regard? You mean like taking action or putting in these like simple little
just
steps?
Getting curious about it. I know we can, like you said, if we're doing these things, if we're eating properly, we're exercising, we can boost our fertility naturally. But I just, that's such a common thing in the medical field, that if someone hasn't conceived in 6 months, they're like, yeah, we'll just wait another 6 months, and we don't do anything about it until then, right?
Yeah.
But there are things we could do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's going to depend on if you go to someone and you're 36, 6 months is the wait time versus the 1 year. So I think, it's hard to answer because it's such an individual approach. I do a full blood biomarker panel for that reason, because that literally gives me a window into how much time we have to work on the things that need to work. And every person's going to be different. I have 43-year-olds that come into my practice that are in better shape than a 32-year-old, or I'll have a 28-year-old man whose sperm looks like a 45-year-old man's sperm, and the specific person I'm thinking about right now, he's a very strong, active man. He's a farmer, but he's been exposed to glyphosate because he works on his ranch. And so we have to do a lot more work for someone who's 28 that comes in with those exposures versus someone who doesn't have those exposures and might be older. So I think if you are struggling and you are getting anxious about it and you're hitting roadblocks, I don't say just sit back and relax, you know. It's time to start digging a little deeper, whether that's educating yourself, really learning about your menstrual cycle, which I think is another area which I sit and speak to my fertility patients with. And when I was in family practice, before I actually put anyone on birth control, I would give them a 15, 20-minute little lecture on their cycle, even though I was stopping it with the birth control. I really wanted them to know, and it's so important for females to know what the cycle is doing and how it's literally giving you just cues on your health on a daily basis. And so being in touch with your menstrual cycle, which is another tip that women can do for fertility, really getting to understand what your fertility cycle is telling you. Well, that will give you a big kind of point of view of like, okay, am I ovulating? What does my luteal and follicular phase look like? Those windows will give you more cues. Sometimes your cervical mucus changes. Then, going to an OB and just getting some blood labs that say that you're normal. So if someone is under 35 and they have to wait a year to progress, then I would say really understanding what's happening to their biology is one of the first steps that someone can do.
Yep. I love that because that's exactly what I teach, all about menstrual cycles and cyclical living. And I go one step further. I did some additional training in nutrition where, I even vary the foods that we eat and the exercises we do based on each phase of the cycle because you need different vitamins and minerals in each phase. And in doing that, my PMS symptoms were gone. And I know it also helps with egg quality and, regular cycles and all of that. So that is so great.
And blood sugar regulation switches throughout your cycle as well, right? So you're going to be about 5 points higher with fasting blood sugars in your later phase than you are in your follicular phase.
Yep. So all important, and it's all different pieces of the same puzzle. So you got to address everything for it to come together.
I know it's very intricate. And so I feel like that's why our pain became our purpose, right? We understand that it's not just those like 4 or 5 labs that the OB is going to run it. There's literally so many things that affect fertility that it's good to get that help and that support when you are feeling like you don't understand what's going on with your body.
Yep. And that's a common theme with my podcast guests too. If something's going on and you're not okay with it, get help, ask questions, figure it out. Yeah, I love that. So now you have a free guide called Why Isn't It Happening Again? The 5 Hidden Biological Blocks Behind Secondary Infertility, Even When Everything Looks Normal. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks. I created something very special for your audience because I imagine that most of your listeners are already moms. And if they were dealing with fertility issues, it's probably secondary infertility. And not, like I said, most people don't talk about it. And that experience is way different than the first time around when you're not trying to get pregnant because it comes with the confusion, the grief, the guilt, and sometimes a lot of silence because it's not like people are walking around saying like, hey, I can't get pregnant again, right? And you also go like, I shouldn't feel bad. I already have a child. Like there's that weird kind of desire and guilt with it as well. So inside the guide, I walk through why fertility can change after the first child, which we touched on a little bit today, the most common biological patterns I've seen in secondary infertility, the labs that most doctors don't automatically run, systems that often get depleted after pregnancy, birth, and breastfeeding. And the fertility readiness actually means the second time around, right? Because it's going to look different the second time, third time versus the first time. So I'm really trying to help women to understand that fertility isn't random or a personal failure, that there's a lot of physiological processes happening. It's literally a miracle when people get pregnant. And in the guide, there's 2 clear steps for if people want personalized guidance, they can reach out to me either with a clarity call or if someone is really ready and they're not getting the answers from the OB, I do have a fertility optimizational panel where they can go ahead and just order the labs without even seeing me, and then we can discuss the labs right afterwards. So I'm removing that first step just to make it easy for people, because I know how hard it is sometimes to just get in the door of a practitioner first.
Yep. I love that. So I will, oh, excuse me. I will make sure to put that link in the show notes. Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, which is vital-fertility.com. You can email me at maria@vital-fertility.com, or I'm on Instagram at vital_fertility.
Nice. And again, I will put all of those links down below. And, this is such an important conversation because it's so common, and it's much more common today than I think it was even 20, 30 years ago. Right? So many people I know have unexplained infertility, right? The official diagnosis of it. And I wish I had known this in my 20s and my 30s, because I probably would not have struggled as much as I did. I learned about all this cycle syncing and menstrual health and stuff in my 40s. So I kind of missed out, but I'm hoping I can teach other women to, catch it early.
Yeah, no, it's good to be able to pass on the knowledge of our journeys, right? And you are 100% correct. When I started my fertility journey, 1 in 8 couples was struggling with fertility. Then about 5 years ago, it was 1 in 6. Now we're getting closer, depending, 1 to 4, 1 out of 5. And so literally in the time that I've had my babies and started my practice, it's shifted. And I do believe in the next, I'm worried for our children's generation.
Yep.
I do feel like it's going to be harder for them to find partners where there's not going to be a fertility struggle.
Yeah. So that's why this is such an important conversation. And I really want to thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me share all about fertility and secondary infertility with you today.
Yep. And in closing, if something in today's episode felt like a mirror, don't ignore it. Your body, your mind, your heart, they're always communicating, and you deserve support. So reach out to either one of us, and thank you for being here. You will hear me in next week's episode.
Are you struggling to be the best mom you can be? Are you fatigued, overwhelmed, and stressed out? Are you losing precious time with your family because of PMS? If so, sign up for my free gift on how to start living in tune with your monthly cycle. The link to get it is in the show notes below. Use this guide to help you start to eliminate your symptoms of PMS, increase your energy, reduce stress, and fully enjoy this incredible mom life. The way I see it, you have 3 choices. You can try to figure it all out on your own. You can do nothing and stay where you are, or you can get the customized guidance you need to thrive as a mom. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something from these stories. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. It really helps this show grow. If you have a mom story you would like to share, click on the link in the description below on becoming a podcast guest. Remember, the content on this podcast is for general information only. It does not replace any medical advice given by your healthcare providers. Please check with your doctor if you have any questions about your specific condition and before starting any new diet or exercise regimen. Thank you, and you will hear from me soon.